It is. And I feel like this is why we can't have nice things. You know?
Well, as it happens, if we have to be stood up by a burlesque dancer because the Luminous Pariah has not shown up, we have two other guests. And so I feel like if you have to be stood up by one, it's really nice to have two. That's still coming.
And, now that he's not here, the better guest.
Debbie Cavalier, Debbie and Friends, and Mike King, both of online Berklee education. They teach music online.
Yeah, through one of the most vaunted colleges in the world, right down the street in Boston. Not that anyone can go to it directly. So this is going to be a biggie. You said you played flute when you were growing up?
Oh my God, it was so terrible. That was what they needed at the time. Yeah, I hate it.
Backpack Show.
Nancy Harhut here.
Morning, Nancy Harhut.
She says the music without the dance.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're going to be fine. Here. We're going to get along just fine. I mean, I'm so excited for this conversation. And
so, yes, if you're just joining the Backpack Show, if you've shown up for burlesque,
get out.
The Luminous Pariah did not show up. So
not in the building. It's Nancy Harhut's fault that I get to talk to Debbie too. She's like, you've got to meet Debbie Cavalier. She's amazing.
That's the best part.
You know what you love more than an incredible guest? One that actually knows other incredible guests and makes it happen. Nancy Harhut. I can't wait for us to get her back on. She comes back on soon, right?
Yes. So we had Nancy on when we were talking to the folks, the actors from Diablero, the Netflix series, and they loved her. Like they were asking her questions and everything. And then her power went out, I guess. And so she just disappeared. And we were like, no. And anyway, so we were determined to get her back. And we have. So she'll be back soon.
So, Mexican horror comedy actors asking Nancy Harhut all her important, heavy-hitting mind control power questions.
Does that tell you everything you need to know about the Backpack Show?
So I'm so excited. Debbie Cavalier and Mike King both have a vaunted history in music. I mean, you probably haven't met someone who has a Grammy. You probably haven't met someone who has been part and parcel of making massive amounts of music, children's music, by the way. But also is just famously connected to a bunch of great songs. And Mike King in the No Slouch department, who runs marketing and CMO and all that sort of thing for Online Berklee, has worked in and around and with all the bands you want to ask questions about. So we're going to have to ask Berklee questions. We have to. But my gosh, what a background, what a history. And hi, Ryan. Good to see you here. Glad he's here. So that's it. I'm bringing him on. So Kerry, you get your button. I'll get mine.
All right.
I'm changing this just a little bit. Debbie and Mike, how are you? Good to see you.
It's so great to see you both. Thank you for having us. We're excited to be here.
Thanks so much for having us.
Thanks for joining. So Debbie, kids music is like no joke. I've been studying guitar for only 2 years, and one of the hardest songs I tried to play was Jenny Jenkins. They're just so quick, like the chord changes are really quick. And so for you to do so well with Debbie and Friends making kids music, I was like doubly impressed.
Oh, thank you so much. Kids love interactive music and being part of the songs. And so I know what you're saying about Jenny Jenkins. They are challenging songs.
I had never really thought about it till that moment because, one would think, and they'd be wrong, that you could be less complicated if you write children's music. But you have to do a lot more with it. You have to catch a lot more. They don't want to feel a vibe. They want to move. They want to sing the song with you and all that. So, I guess one way to do that is to be part of helping a song that never ends show up.
The Jerry Lewis classic. Yeah. Yeah. And they're the most honest audience you'll ever have. If they don't like it, that you know it. So you have to stay on your toes.
Mike, you had your hands in a whole bunch of different music. Would you rather produce a performer, an artist like a Debbie or do that kind of work? Or, is the Chili Peppers?
What's he gonna say?
Well, they work together. That doesn't mean, musically that's what he wants. I mean, what's the kind of mindset around the kinds of performers you find, worked great with you professionally and all that sort of a thing?
Yeah, it really comes down to the ones that connect with their audience specifically, which Debbie does. Absolutely. So if you ask me the question, would I rather work with Debbie or Red Hot Chili Peppers? I've got a couple of key demographic folks that really align to what Debbie's doing. So we've seen numerous Debbie and Friends shows, So yeah, I mean, to Debbie's point, It is. It's a whole different deal, children's music, because I'd say the theatrical aspect, you have to be on, which is maybe sometimes a little bit different than other parts of music. And one of the demographics that is interested in Debbie's music just tried to come into my room here. So.
Oh, that's sweet. So we're like BBC, like just have them come in.
Yeah, exactly.
You learn a lot in that moment. So now one thing that we just started to point out is that Debbie is CEO of Berklee Online at Berklee College of Music, and Mike, you're the CMO over there and do a bunch of stuff. You're just about to start your next season or whatever, your semester, your term, whatever, like tomorrow, right? Am I right on the time?
You're right. It's today. Yeah.
Today's the day. So what? I mean, this seems like a really weird day to be able to do this show, being that, there's a massive launch on. What do you have to do today besides put out fires? Is today fire day only, or what happens in your world?
Debbie, I'll get really quick into this. So we enroll throughout the week, so this week, the entire week is a huge week. And, Berklee Online is a little bit of a self-contained unit inside Berklee. We have our own reg team, our own admissions team, our own marketing folks. So we're still, and I apologize for getting into marketing speak, but we're still walking people through the funnel right now. So we have, non-degree courses, 12-week individual courses. We have certificate programs. We have degree programs. Over the next 2 weeks, people are still going to be enrolling in degree programs. But it's heavy on the front lines today. It's, we've got 4 terms a year. This day, today, Monday, is probably the heaviest of any day that we have at the online school. So just tons of activity going throughout the whole organization, and we're all doing it remotely, and we're doing it at a high level. So yeah, just engaging with potential students and just walking through the funnel.
And the reason we're able to be here today is because we have an extraordinary team that will run through walls for the students, and they don't need us.
Mike, you're an award-winning instructor, I saw, and you teach a lot of music business courses. So I'm wondering how much sort of carry through there is from your marketing experience to your music experience. Like, has being a musician helped you learn to market yourself and other people better?
Yeah, well, I've said something which is true. I run admissions at Berklee College of Music, the physical school, and I've said to various people, I wouldn't accept myself at Berklee, so for you to refer to me as a musician is kind. I can play chords and I can do some things, but my background really is in music business. Chris, you're mentioning some of the things I've done in the past. I worked at the time it was a large independent label called Ryko Disc, and I did project management. I was involved in probably the most famous would be Frank Zappa's estate, figuring out different ways to repackage Frank Zappa's stuff. Some newer artists, Josh Rouse, Jess Klein. And then I went to Rounder, where I did publishing administration. So I am more of a fan of music than an actual performer, although I can do a little bit. But
selling music's really different from selling education.
Or
is it?
Sort of, right? The product is definitely different, and there's an emotional connection that I think is related to both, So there's, if you want to say a product, like music being a product or education being a product, they're different sorts of products and aligned, but different than, selling a widget or, pharmaceutical sales or something like that. There's deep passion involved in both of them, right? So they both share that. But, I know you mentioned you had Nancy Harhut on as a guest in the past. Some of the marketing tactics that you use with marketing music are the same as what you would use with marketing education. There's really core foundational sort of tactics that you use to do both. And I'd say, one thing that Berklee's really good at, and the way that we set Berklee Online up from a marketing standpoint is we certainly do look at other schools and see what they're doing from a marketing standpoint and test it out and see if it'll work for us. But we look outside of education for best practices with marketing and see, companies in Boston, tech companies that I think are fantastic. Okay, what are they using for their CRM? How are they focused on finding prospects, And then if you insert in, you know, sort of the emotional connection stuff, the things that are unique to music education and, you know, even, you know, music business and, you know, selling music, that's how you can make something really special, you know? So we've been doing that at Berklee Online I've been there for 17 years. But that's sort of the approach that we take.
Debbie, I'm curious to know, you know, as a CEO of this entity, as someone on the board of Avid, and as someone who is still directing, curating, and making your own music and still making your own shows, how does that work? In what way do you bring what you know about your music creation and performance and all that into those boardrooms? And in what ways does, you know, do the things that you do in business in any way influence what you're doing in creating, you know, your music and your business around your music?
It's all so related. You know, I'm a student of Berklee Online. I apply it to the work that I do with Debbie and friends. All of that helps inform how I can serve on boards like Avid's Customer Association. It all just works together so well. I look to Mike for best practices. What he was describing, you know, he's built and he leads an incredible marketing engine at Berklee Online, and all of those principles can be applied to my Debbie and Friends project and other things that I'm working on.
How many friends are there, Debbie?
We have thousands, but you know, it's
There's a lot of friends.
Unlike other artists, my audience outgrows me. So, but they come back around. So I've been in it long enough now to be receiving messages from, you know, teenagers and young mothers saying, I'm using this music now with either a younger sibling or my own children. So it is evergreen in its own way, but the audience does change.
Can I add something to that, Debbie? Because I think what you're just talking about there, it's actually a competitive advantage that Debbie and Friends has over non-children's music, because some artists you'll see, okay, they've got a fan base, they're onto something, and as they progress and maybe their music changes, they lose that fan base, and it's kind of hard to kind of regenerate that. But it's automatically happening. Like the funnel is really interesting, and it goes from sibling to sibling, you know, but you've got a new crew of people that are just looking for what you're doing, you know, which is unlike a lot of artists, you know.
Thank you.
One of my favorite things about the Backpack Show is the community we serve, and they come in with questions and comments, and it's always a lot more fun because they're here. So Chloe from Scotland wants to know, do you find it's easier to hold the attention of adults or children when you're teaching music?
Oh, when you're teaching music, I first thought you were going to say when you're performing music.
Well, both. I mean, I'll take either, both answers.
Yeah. So for performing music, the band members and Debbie and Friends also play in bands that cater to adult audiences. And they always say it's so refreshing to have just the kids with us for, you know, 50 intense minutes. They're part of every minute of every song. The ones that really know our music will say, you didn't do this verse right. You know, they just so into it. You skipped this part. Or they'll cry at the end of the show because we didn't do their favorite song. You know, they're just really into it. Unlike a lot of settings for adult oriented music where your background music and people are talking. So it's a whole different thing. For teaching music, we serve primarily adult learners at Berklee Online, and boy, they are motivated, intense students. They're really, it's something they've dreamed of all their life. They're finally going to Berklee. And so holding the attention of adult learners, I think is something that's almost a given, you know, unless life gets in the way, and we cater to that. Our instructors are great. Our faculty are great about working with people. If there's a business trip or an illness or something, working out a plan on the side. So I think for education with adult learners, they're really, they're right there.
It's almost cliche to say that things have changed because for you, you know, you've been running the online part of this for years, and Berklee has one of the most established online systems set up. You have all the learning management systems. You have everything in place. This is not, you know, a bunch of people with tubas on Zoom. This is a system.
Yeah.
By the way, please make a t-shirt. So, but one thing I was thinking, Mike, since you said it earlier about publishing and management of publishing, when Sir Mix-a-Lot was on, Sir Mix-a-Lot said, he was very candid. He said, when I got super famous and I got all that money for Baby Got Back and all that, he goes, I made all my money. I spent all my money. I went dead broke, got in trouble with the government. And then he goes, and I came back again. And when I did it, it's because I figured out publishing. and he owned all this publishing rights, publishing license. He owned a whole catalog, and he makes bags of money, never having to be on a stage if he doesn't want to. That long premise, that long setup is to say, he also advises nobody to sign with a label anymore. He also says this is not the way to go. What is that part of talking music business like right now? It's got to be so different right now.
Boy, well, we can really dig down deep into this, but when you say right now,
let's say last 10 years or so.
Oh, last 10 years.
Macklemore forward. Let's go.
Yeah,
not
sure.
COVID.
Yeah, right now it's COVID, and live is obviously super challenging, and live has been a part of the business for a long time. I'll say, just because I've been teaching for so long, I started teaching at Berklee Online in 2009. I came to Berklee Online in 2003. In 2009, I would have students, and what I've always taught is more or less, so what Sir Mix-a-Lot was talking about, which is the independent approach. And I've worked at 3 labels. I worked for Chris Blackwell in New York City for a label that he had called Palm Pictures after Island Records. So what I saw when I was at the labels is there's this kind of halcyon glow or something about the labels, or there was, where hey, you get a label and they'll hook you up, and that's the way to success, and the truth is, it's super challenging. So people like Sir Mix-a-Lot and Kanye came out recently saying, you don't need a label. The royalty structure and the advance structure at a label is such where if you sign with a label, they're going to want a certain number of records, and they're going to pay you a certain royalty rate, which you will get once you recoup. So folks probably know this, but if you get, for easy math, $100,000 advance and you have a 12% royalty rate, something like that, which is not uncommon for a new artist, not only do you only get 12% after you recoup, but you recoup at 12%. It's not like every dollar that is sold through a label, that doesn't just knock down that advance. It's only knocked down by 12%. So anyways, when I was at the label, I thought, it's a tough business. So in 2009, when I started teaching music business, I said, hey, there's another way, and at that time, there were a lot of musician software services that were just starting to pop up. Bandcamp, for example, that's a good one, and they're doing amazing things right now for artists. There's another one at the time called Topspin, any number of different tools. Some still exist, some do not. So I said, hey, here's sort of the approach, and these are the things you need to pay attention to. My point is, 2009, I would kind of get into healthy arguments with students saying, you're wrong. It's just a label. That's really, all this other stuff is just, and you really need a label. You're not there, So over the last 10 years, 11 years, 12 years, Chris, that has totally shifted, where it's now, I think it may have even gone a little too far. I think a label is the right option for some artists at a certain point in their career. There's certain things that labels do really well. They're a bank, they're marketing, they're very focused on streaming services and how to get on editorial playlists. That's something that's a little bit more challenging as an independent artist. So there's some things that labels still do really well. But the vast majority of artists right now are at a point in their career where they don't really need one, and the most important thing for an artist to do right now, which Debbie has been doing for years, is building up your own base and figuring out ways to monetize your own base. And then you reach a point where, I can't handle this on my own anymore. You need help. It's probably you look for an artist manager first. You look at, maybe some digital help first, digital marketing. And then you reach a point where labels are going to come to you, and you're in a more advantageous situation to negotiate a better deal. That's sort of what we've been talking about for the last 10 years.
Matt wants to know, should we talk about more micro labels in this conversation?
Yeah, that's really interesting. And there's a lot of different approaches to that. Some management companies operate as micro labels.
Oh, interesting.
So Network, for example, you can pick and choose what you want. So if you want marketing help, you've got it. You want management help, you've got it. You want traditional label services, you've got it. So yeah, I think that's a great potential option, but the core remains. You got to do a lot of work on your own before a micro label or a management company, anybody is going to be interested in you. And the positive side about all this is there are more opportunities to generate awareness than there were 10 or 12 years ago. But the other kind of contrasting thing is that means there's just more competition. It makes it a little bit trickier. Yeah.
Chloe says she can see why so many people choose the independent route, that so many artists have been putting out new songs almost every week now that they're stuck at home with the rest of us.
And I was going to ask Debbie some questions about that. I mean, Debbie, you probably were a musician from grade school yourself. It's been something in your past. Your first businesses were in teaching that. I mean, you taught at public schools K-6 and then K-12. So not only did you love music, you loved teaching music, which is there's a sainthood in there for you just for that. Like my parents paid me to stop doing violin. So that'll tell you how that went. I played, no,
sure,
I mean,
they didn't.
They legitimately paid me to not play violin. They liked clarinet, they liked sax, and they loved it when I was a guitar guy. But when I went to violin, they were like, I'm good with not hearing the violin ever again. And they gave me money. So, and later, by the way, I wasn't so bad with the cello because the deeper pitch. But Debbie, I was going to ask you the question. So you teach the musicians a lot. Mike is blowing my mind. I was just thinking about my school grade friends, Mike and Matt, and how one of us was more like Mike and one of us was more like Matt. It was just sticking in my head when I said that out loud. Mike taught a lot about the business. You teach a lot about music and probably the business. What do you instruct these young artists? Do you ever get little private, like would-be Fred Penners and, Wiggles, whispering to your CEO ear saying, I think I want to do this on my own. Now what?
It's so interesting that you asked that, Chris. We didn't talk about this at all beforehand, but I often get requests from Berklee students, new Berklee campus students, that would like to meet with me to talk about how they can break into children's music. I got one just last week, and we're setting up a Zoom meeting with that young individual. And last week, I received a web page link to music that somebody I met with 2 years ago wanted to show me based on what we discussed. She went for it and is enjoying starting her career in children's music. So yeah, it's been a nice thing to be able to mentor Berklee students who want to get into this wonderful field. If you don't mind, I would like to just piggyback on what you're talking about with monetization and publishing and licensing.
Sure.
I think you were just showing my YouTube channel, and I've got dozens of original cartoon music videos, and we have nearly 19 million views on our YouTube channel. But the biggest revenue generator, the biggest income stream for Debbie and Friends is from those cartoon music videos, licensing them to apps that cater to families who want a walled garden experience, a safe area for them to watch things online. So licensing for children's music, there's tremendous opportunity there, licensing and publishing.
I think that's a big thing to talk about. And what I have two questions at the same time. With the licensing and publishing for the apps, do they do this often? I mean, is there like a set system? Like for when Mike was doing what he was doing in business, by the time he was doing it, there were innovations happening, but there was of course also a history of this. Is this like a set world that you know how to navigate, or how did you say, oh, let me explain how to have that? I'm thinking of the independent person who's making really cool children's music and makes a video like this and goes, oh, I could sell this to some app. Right. And what's that look like? How do people learn about that, and what's the process like?
Thanks. My journey for that was really looking at the App Store and seeing what apps have content that my material would serve well. Oh, that's a book I just published on adult learners going back to school.
Awesome.
Different than the cartoons, but yeah. And the proceeds from that book go to the Berklee Online Scholarship Fund. There's a mom going back to school book and a dad going back to school book. But back to your question, I found a couple of companies that were looking to license my content for their apps or for their web destinations, or now they're getting their things on Roku and all the different distribution platforms. And then I would look on the App Store to say, people who looked at this particular app also looked at these, and I would approach those companies. And it was really just hunting and pecking and having success with that. And some of them are, $10 a quarter, and some of them are several $1,000s a quarter. And it's been a real fun thing to explore. And it helps to fund additional cartoon music videos, which is great.
Nancy says cartoons sound easy, but I bet there are all kinds of things to watch out for. Hi, Carol. Oh, and your dad forgot that they paid you to give up violin.
Wasn't a lot of money. They didn't really rake the bank or nothing, but it was tricky. So is that true? What do you have to watch out for in the cartoon?
Is that like a licensing thing? Maybe she's thinking the copyright for the cartoon itself.
So definitely you have to watch, I have an attorney that reviews all the contracts, but make sure you retain ownership and it's non-exclusive deal so that you can continue to license to other platforms. All of that is important to keep the legal house in order. But it's a wide open opportunity, especially now with COVID. The numbers are really climbing for those licensing arrangements.
So everyone's stuck at home and they need stuff that kids can watch.
That's right.
Debbie, interesting. I just wanted to add on to this. For musicians that are watching, that are trying to figure out how to generate revenue, we're talking about publishing. The algorithmic stuff you're talking about, Debbie, I think is really important. I had a student who I just thought was genius. He figured out, kind of the top streaming. I'm going to call them songs. They're not songs on Spotify that were outside of the norm. This is a guy that made or makes, I guess it would be called Foley music. So the sound of a shoes walking in the hallway. And he figured out that a lot of people on Spotify are listening to background noise when they go to sleep. The wind through the leaves, babbling brook, that sort of thing. This guy just really dug deep into that and created hundreds of different, 10-hour-long songs that were focused on, that sort of background music, and crushed it on Spotify. So it's an algorithmic thing where, and we can talk more about Spotify, but it's Spotify knows, okay, a lot of people like this sort of background music, the sound of an air conditioner, even when it's winter out, and this guy just created this stuff. So we had a long discussion about how do you take advantage of these algorithms, and sort of like what Debbie was talking about, looking for these opportunities and sometimes making content to fulfill that opportunity,
My kids only like the background music that has interrupting things in it that bothers me, like not consistent white noise, but like a boat with a creek or something, and the creek happens every 35 seconds and drives me insane.
I know what you mean.
Those are the ones my kids like. Yeah, I'm sorry, Chris, go ahead.
I'm just okay. I was just going to say, if you're joining us right now, this is Debbie Cavalier and Mike King, who are running the online portion of the Berklee College of Music. Debbie has worked there for 20 years at this point, Debbie? Can that be true? My gosh, 20 years. You were never swayed
music as a child.
you were not swayed to wander off to some other online entity. I mean, my gosh, everyone's getting into online education right now and doing it in different level. I'm trying to be so polite because I want to say mean things, but they're doing it in different levels of quality. You have yours dialed in. You have great learning management systems. You have it all planned out. What advice do you give to the newcomers who are just flicking on Zoom and looking out into a sea of humans?
It's a great question. Everybody's being forced to do that now to teach online. And our model at Berklee Online is, we have a course author, a faculty member, and we wrap a team of experts around them, experts in curriculum design, instructional design, video people, editors, animators, graphic designers, and we create these 12-week robust, takes us close to a year to develop each course. And we spend a lot of money on that, but we are only building things that we know the market wants. And so at the end, there's a line of students that are interested in taking it. We do have Zoom as a part of that overall experience. Every week, the instructor will go in. We've integrated Zoom in our learning platform, and the instructor holds a live class for an hour every week. So we do have that component. Unfortunately, A lot of what, go ahead.
No, I was just nodding in agreement.
Okay. Unfortunately, a lot of what students are experiencing right now is just that Zoom piece, just the instructor putting on Zoom like this and teaching as if they were in the classroom. So I would say that's one component, but it needs to be supplemented with other elements. There needs to be a component of collaboration and communication and community with the students, So collaborative projects, if it's possible to get a learning platform so that all these things can be integrated, other assets, video, audio, interactions, that really makes a difference and addresses all the different ways people learn. The last thing I'll say is there's also the option of licensing existing robust programs. So a lot of schools are coming to us now saying, I want to use our faculty, but can we license your music theory course, your Pro Tools course, your music business courses, and award credit through our institution, licensing your courses. So they use our platform and they're up and running with a robust program.
That's interesting too. That feeds the other whole conversation about having a good catalog to manage. Is, you have a good catalog of intellectual property at your school. It seems like a really good theme. I'm gonna have to put you backstage for a second because we have to do some sponsor love, because we don't have two guests today because one's a
don't go
big
away.
piece of poop.
Hey.
Yeah, you can run for a second, Mike. You're good. Go ahead.
I like to think that he had some kind of catastrophic accident doing burlesque. I don't know.
Maybe he slipped and fell on a feather boa. So I don't know. Hey, listen, let's do some sponsor love and we'll look at the community and all that sort of thing. We're sponsored by StreamYard. You can make your own show where you can talk to incredible award-winning musicians turned college owners. So, yes. I don't know, CEOs. You can make a better show than us. cbrogan.me/StreamYard is where you can set up StreamYard. We're doing so many referrals on StreamYard. It is amazing how many people are trying to poke around, decide if they're going to make their own show. Yeah, thank goodness you ever recommended me to it. I would have been doing this a much more difficult way and it wouldn't have looked half as good.
Yeah,
you're awesome.
I couldn't.
It also
has to be easy for the guests to come.
That is right. If we can't make it easy for even a burlesque person to get out of his own bed, his bed made of feathers.
I feel like drive to your house and drag you out of bed, but I can make it easy to get into the studio by giving you just a simple one-click link.
See Brogan.me/StreamYard. Hey, authors, you wrote the book. Now make the website. Oh, wait, you don't know how to make websites because you're just a dumb author.
Stop it.
Go to pub-site.com, and you can have an incredible author site made for you by the people who are the best in the business at book publicity. 25 years FSB Associates has made you look better than you really are. And now let them do that with a website at pub-site.com. Kerry, tell me a little bit more about the site.
So you can write the best book ever written. And if nobody ever hears about it, they're not going to buy it. So you need a website to promote it. So this is super easy. If you can do like click and move things and do basic stuff, you could build your own website in like less time than it would take you to go out for lunch with someone who knows more than you about website building.
It costs so much money though. It's super expensive.
It does not. They'll even build it for you, by the way. It is a 14-day free trial. And after that, it's just $19.99 a month. So pub-site.com.
I guess that's affordable. So you could go with that.
Totally.
All right. A lot of good people here, even though we don't have one burlesque dancer.
Angry.
I'm just so excited. So, Chloe points something out that's kind of interesting too. I guess the good thing about this year is that the application of technology in music education is now a bigger conversation. Well, in general, the application of technology. So we're going to drag our guest on for the last couple of minutes of questions. Yeah. Kerry, you like to think he had an accident.
Well, because if he didn't, he's going to.
Yeah, we're going to send out the burlesque dancer mafia to kind of ruffle his feathers. So I have a lot of feather boa jokes, it turns out. We're going to bring back Debbie and Mike. I got to do this. I like you better right there.
So
they look better where they are. There we go. People of Earth. Look, I work really hard to make this side of the pillow cold, and you can't be over here.
Fine,
Debbie and Mike, it is a certain time, isn't it, in the land of people having to do stuff. Have you found that your students and also the whole process, your instructors and everything, because you've been doing this way for some time, is this just the way it goes and there's not really a big ruffle over there? Or was launching COVID, was this a big ruffle? What happened?
So I'll start, Mike, but I'd love for you to add on. So Berklee Online is just growing by leaps and bounds. It's a combination of Mike and his team's brilliant marketing work over the years and also the COVID situation. We're growing by leaps and bounds. At the same time, we've been helping the campus program with moving everything online. So the campus is leveraging a lot of the Berklee Online courses, and a lot of our instructors also teach, of course, on campus. So they've got that expertise already. So it's really been a nice opportunity for what we call our learning environments, Berklee Online, Boston campus, Berklee, Boston Conservatory at Berklee, to all work together to make sure that this remote experience is extraordinary for students who were planning to come to campus, but weren't able to this fall and summer. Mike?
Yeah, you're right. It's the two things. I would just say we have such an amazing team and foundation in place at the online school that I think we touched on this earlier. We didn't just come up with online as a response to folks not being able to study in person. We've been doing it for 20 years. So because we have that foundation and we know what we're doing, and we're pretty, I would say somewhat savvy with marketing and communication, and we've got like really great tools and all that. The online school is in a great situation. The campus, it's different. We're currently for the fall, even on campus, everyone is studying remotely. So because we're able to leverage, a lot of the faculty that teach at Berklee Online are also teaching at the physical college. So they have experience too on the physical side. But it's definitely, it's a different time for physical education. But we have a similar foundation across both physical school and online school. So we definitely have the best team and best sort of approach in place, I think.
I taught online for years, and they always treated us like the poor cousin, like, yeah, we have online. It's cool. But they were always like,
oh yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, but they were always like, oh, but the campus experience and blah, blah, blah. We were doing amazing things with online education to make it more, you can't obviously replicate the in-person experience, but you can definitely create connection and interaction and community in a way that I think most people right now just haven't even considered. They're just like taking what they do in the classroom, moving those lectures online. But you, having been in the space for so long with a subject that's really difficult to teach online, I think in some ways, you've got a really amazing head start over other institutions that don't have the in-house expertise to make that happen. Carol actually wants to know, Carol from Canada, is it possible to do like a group music session on Zoom Live, even with the delays? She's thinking all the parts are like pre-recorded and then assembled later, or do you actually play it together?
So those things that you see online, those wonderful productions, there's a Boston Conservatory and Berklee Online alum, Shelby Rassler, who's been doing a lot of very inspiring, just hundreds of people working together on a beautiful arrangement, but they're all pre-recorded and then assembled. With latency issues, you really can't do anything in Zoom in real time. I'm teaching a music theory course and was playing for students different songs on a Spotify playlist to help them identify the time signature. And I was clapping along with the beat, helping them count. And when I watched back the recording, they must have thought I was just terrible. Even just clapping along in Zoom, you're out of sync, You don't
have any rhythm, Debbie and friends.
So it's really not possible. However, it is possible. There are some tools. If you're all on the same network, I guess there are some tools where you can do that. But our students distributed all over the world, so that hasn't been solved for yet. But you might be interested to know, Kerry and Chris, that Berklee Online started back in 2001, and it was really standing on the shoulders of a long, rich history in distance learning. Berklee had a correspondence course through the mail in the 60s and 70s. And
wow,
it was advertised.
How is that? Like, send me your tape and I'll get back to you in a month.
It was 26 lessons, dance band lessons. I actually have them here. And people would learn how to write and arrange for dance bands, which was a big professional opportunity back in the day. And so the online school was just the next step to take. Let's go further than through the mail and put it online. So,
Mike, we're totally kid friendly, cat friendly, whatever's going on over there. Just bring it in. Bring it in.
I hope you can't hear it all.
No,
it's not cat friendly. It's kid. But yeah, I'm doing my best.
No, it's all good. Really?
So listen, here we are at the end of the show. And one of the things we ask every single guest is, the world's crazy out there. Everything's changing. We're sort of building on dirty sand here. What's the deal? What is something that you can give people to think about and grow from? And what goes into your backpack? And so the backpack is a metaphorical backpack. You can add something real world physical, or you can add something metaphorical. We like to keep it to one. We've had a few people not do that. Some people have said things like grit. Some people have said determination. Some people have said humility. Others have said an avocado.
Or a banana.
Or a banana. So Butterscotch, the world champion beatboxer multiple years in a row, said a banana. So Debbie and then Mike, what goes into your backpack?
I didn't really think about this ahead of time, but this whole period for me has been about growth, about learning new things and trying new things. So is there a metaphor of something to put in the backpack that represents growth? I don't know.
Well, growth's a good word. We'll say
steroids. You put steroids.
Learning new things. We're doing Debbie and Friends live shows through YouTube streaming. Just writing those books about parents going back to school. Just trying and doing and learning new things, especially now.
Michael, what comes to mind? Sorry, Mike.
Sure. Yeah, I think it's going back to the earlier part of our conversation. There's so much kind of research you can do on your own to get you to a certain spot. That's been tremendous over time. Like just even what we do at Berklee Online with our massive open online courses, and we've got free any number of different resources where if you're curious about something and you do the research, you can get to a point, and then if you want to go deeper, we've got live instruction and semi-asynchronous 12-week courses. So long way of saying research. Can you put that in your backpack?
Research fits. I have a space for it right on the left.
Yeah.
Research is in my backpack. Okay. Kathy points out that it's true. As a former teacher, her colleagues are trying to learn how to navigate the online world with their teaching skills and come alive online. It's definitely a whole different energy level. And also she loves your hair, Debbie.
Thank you, Kathy.
Yeah. And then they're having a conversation about Chloe's lack of discipline in the comments.
So listen, it's time to assign a person of the day. Person of the day is sponsored by pub-site.com, where authors can go to make a site that's even better than the book they bothered writing. We have a new person of the day today. It is Kathy. Kathy, because she's a former teacher, because I don't think I've seen her around these parts just yet. So I'm glad you're here. And because she likes Debbie's hair. So you're a person that means you're entitled to an apple just like that one in the picture. Just run down to your local store, buy it, eat it. It's delicious. You're the person of the day. Just
Chloe
like
loves your additions to the backpack.
So yeah, those are good ones. That feels like a big win. I was thinking about it, and I was thinking, did any of my other family members? So my mom played a little bit of piano and accordion, by the way, and my dad could listen to the radio. But did my grandmother ever play music? My grandmother had a few things to say about music.